All right, we are live. Let's go ahead. So, the Los Angeles Lakers are entering this current offseason with lots of questions. They have a lot of things that they can do to upgrade the team moving forward. In the video, we're going to talk a little bit about what they could potentially do via trade, free agency, and kind of the really hard cap situation that the Lakers find themselves in. Again, we're doing a lot more videos of these. We're doing more today of all the other playoff teams that, and we're going to be talking a lot more about, again, trades, free agency, draft, all that fun stuff. So feel free to comment on the video. Feel free to enter some words into the chat, and feel free to subscribe, comment, like, all those fun things. Let's just jump right into it. So the Lakers obviously are paying Anthony Davis and LeBron James. The only guaranteed contracts they have on the roster at this moment for next year are LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Kyle Kuzma. Marc Gasol is also on the roster as well. However, his contract probably is not really one that you move unless it's kind of just like a filler in a trade, which I don't really see it being. Kuzma and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are the two guys that are on the trade market. So we'll kind of talk trades first, and then we'll kind of look into a little bit more about free agency. So Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Kuzma combined for about $26 million. Now, with that being the case, they probably can't bring a guy into the roster that is making more than, the $26 million, because again, they can only really send out the 26. Now, I don't know if a team will send out a super high paid player for just Kuzma and KCP. So that makes the Lakers situation a little bit tough, because who's the best player in the NBA that the Lakers can trade for that involves these two in a trade? Now, they also own the 22nd pick in the draft. So is that a bargaining chip as well? Like those three pieces of the two players of Schroeder and Kuzma and the pick, what is that able to get you? I think we're going to find out. I don't know if it happens draft night, but I think we're going to find out relatively soon about, what the Lakers could potentially do, because any trade has to contain one of those three things that I mentioned: the pick and the two players, KCP and Kyle Kuzma. Let's talk about free agency. The Lakers have kind of the elephant in the room with the Lakers is Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, who is right now not really. I'm really interested to see what the market is for Dennis Schroeder. There were some rumors that had talked about the Bulls and the Billy Donovan connection. But Schroeder is an interesting player because it doesn't sound like the Lakers want him back. If they did, I feel like an extension would have been reached in the regular season, but it wasn't. So what is the market for Dennis Schroeder? Does he say, I want to be a starting point guard somewhere, and maybe the Lakers view him as more of a backup, off the bench kind of a guy? Montrezl Harrell has a player option. Now, the interesting thing with that is that the Lakers could technically discuss, hey, Montrez, where would you want to go if you were to be moved off of the team? Because he could decline his player option and be a free agent, or he could accept it and then they could trade him to a team that maybe he wants to be a part of. That is an interesting situation as well. Wesley Matthews is a free agent. Alex Caruso also faces unrestricted free agency. So Alex Caruso is, obviously a fan favorite there in LA. He is a guy that I don't know exactly what his ceiling is. If you up his minutes from not just being the guy off the bench, but to being a guy who's playing heavy minutes, is he a guy that you feel comfortable paying big money to? From what I've heard from Lakers beat writers, we'll grow into a little bit of rumors here in a moment. But if that were to happen, or if what the market for Caruso, I should say, how much do you want to pay him? Because it sounds to me, from what I've heard, the Lakers want to keep him. The Lakers also want to keep Talen Horton-Tucker. They believe in him. I don't think an Andre Drummond reunion is going to happen as well, which, personally I think is a good thing for the Lakers because I don't think Drummond was great for them in the first place. So Caruso and Taylor Horton-Tucker, they're going to try to pay those guys, but if they can't, Horton-Tucker is a restricted free agent. With Caruso not, if somebody offers him big money somewhere, he could easily take it and say, and the Lakers can say, well, we can't match that offer. I know in his situation, he's unrestricted, so they don't need to technically match it, but he's going to go chase money. I believe Caruso will go try to chase money somewhere, and we'll see where that happens. And but those are kind of the two big pieces in free agency that I can see them trying to get, but maybe they struggle to bring them back. Schroeder is one guy I just think they're ready to let go of, but it's unfortunate for them because they're not going to really get anything for a relatively talented player on the roster. Let's preview right now the picks for the Lakers. Obviously, they have the Lakers trade of the Anthony Davis trade, I should say, that landed Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, former Lakers, to New Orleans. The Lakers still will owe some Pelicans picks to New Orleans, and so yeah, I mean, they don't necessarily have too great of draft capital to trade away. So again, if you're wanting Damian, if you're wanting Bradley Beal, you got to imagine that those guys want to be able to have. You had to imagine that the teams of the Wizards and the Blazers, respectively, they want to probably get young players and draft pieces. I don't see the Lakers containing either of those on the roster right now. I don't think if you throw in Kuzma or KCP and then sign and trade Caruso and throw in some picks, I don't know if that nets you a Damian Lillard or a Bradley Beal type of a player. Let's get into rumors right now and kind of talk a little bit about what the Lakers could potentially do. So the Nuggets have talked to teams looking to trade down. One of those teams is apparently the Lakers. I don't know exactly what they find with this pick. We'll talk a little bit about what has happened there. Mavericks and the Lakers and the Pelicans are high on Landry Shamet, who recently last year played for the Nets. So that will be, again, a piece that I think, they're going to try to add some depth to their team next year. Lakers healed Sixers, Simmons, Lillard. Yeah, so this is the interesting thing. Let's talk about Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield is probably more attainable I guess it's more realistic that the Lakers would be able to get him as opposed to Russell Westbrook, as opposed to Kyle Lowry. There's going to be serious cap maneuvers if the Lakers were to be able to attempt to just try to get Lowry or Paul or some high, big contract point guard. There's been the mention of is there a Lonzo Ball reunion coming? I just don't see them doing those kind of things. I think the most the current trade that's kind of out there is the Buddy Hield trade, where Hield would go to the Lakers and the Lakers would send Kuzma and maybe another pick, maybe KCP, over to Sacramento. So that would be interesting. It says, let's see, that doesn't necessarily mean Hield. Yeah, again, they're going to go big fish hunting. The Lakers are going to try to maneuver their way to get a big fish in the current draft or in the current, free agency and trade market, whatever it may be. They're going to try to get somebody big on this team because they understand LeBron's getting older. AD is a little brittle. Not even a little. He is very brittle. And, you worry about if they get nicked up during the regular season, can something or a player be able to get them over the top and be able to survive without one of those two. Lakers' desire to land another big star is well documented at this point, but their ability to actually make the money work is another matter altogether. So again, we've heard Dennis Schroeder, for Kyle Lowry, Chris Paul, DeMar DeRozan. It's going to take, it says, pay cuts. For these guys to go and play with LeBron and AD. What guy wants to do that? Now, there was the interesting thing. There was a small story about DeMar DeRozan being a guy who was a candidate to maybe potentially take a little less, and then after that, it really was just DeRozan. So DeRozan had talked about potentially maybe saying, "Oh, well, maybe I'll take a little less money to go to a contender," but he still wants to be compensated. Man, I'll tell you what, if DeRozan does anything like that and like takes like a mid-level contract or a veteran minimum contract, like that would explode the league. It would be insanity for him to just go 1 year to the Lakers and then just dip out afterwards. I just think that would be insane. So anyway, the Lakers are very exciting. I think they're handcuffed in some areas. So, while I see that they may, it's the Lakers, they might be able to do it. However, I just don't see a deal. Now, maybe it's Buddy Hield, but I don't see a deal that's going to be earth-shattering. I think people need to get out of their mind the Chris Paul, the DeRozan, the Westbrook, the Kyle Lowry signings, the ability for them to do anything like that. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think that there is going to be a lot of veterans that will line up to play on this team next year. Obviously, the team is in LA. That's always a benefit. And so the Lakers should be able to have some of these veteran guys to sign up, take the minimum, and pair up with LeBron and AD. That will end the stream. Right now, we are actually going to move forward, and we're going to talk about the Miami Heat next, followed by the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. So stay with us. We are doing multiple streams tonight and talking a lot more basketball, a lot more of the offseason, what to look forward to come August 1st and 2nd when kind of free agency is going to blow up. And then also we're going to recover and cover the draft, I should say. So feel free to comment, like, subscribe to the video, and subscribe to the channel. And let's move on to the Heat.